You have unread texts from Golf Buds. Would you like me to read them?
Yes.
Okay. Johnny says, what are the nicotine pouches you had on the course? Walker says, 8 milligram on nicotine pouches. Billy says, I love the mint one.
I like that one.
Walker says, me too. By the way, you both stink at golf. LOLOL.
Come on. Carry on nicotine pouches. Shop now at onnicotine.com/group text. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that's right, my friends. You've tuned in to America's home for conservative and not bitter talk. I'm your host, the one, the only Todd Huff. It is my absolute pleasure to be here with you today. I'm a little bit down in the dumps after watching my Indiana Pacers lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder last night. Lost by, 11 points? They really weren't ever... I shouldn't say that. They made a run late into the fourth quarter. They cut it to 2. They were down roughly 10 points or so, give or take, most of the game. Oklahoma City Thunder pulled out to a lead, and basically it was on cruise control. We might have gotten it to 6 a few times. They probably took it up to, I think they got it up to 18 a time or two. But anyway, cut it to 2, and then basically they finished the job, and we didn't. 120 to 109, I believe, was the final score last night. Good team. Not going to be whining here about any of it. That's a good team. Pacers got beaten. They let Game 4 get away over the weekend on Friday night. That's the one that they should have won. You could say the Pacers stole Game 1. If you said that, you would also have to say the Thunder stole Game number 4. Which changed the trajectory. The Pacers have to win both games or they're done. Oklahoma City just needs to win one more. All right, so I've been talking here about what's happening in the Middle East. This idea of regime change, which brings back memories of what we had to deal with during the Iraq conflict. I'm talking about the context here. Of course, we don't want any new wars. We want to have a world that's not, the United States in wars all the time, starting new wars, fighting wars, and all of that. The truth is, sometimes it becomes very complicated, especially when you have someone like the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Ayatollah, the mullahs, who are on the verge potentially of having a nuclear weapon, which they have suggested, they've said that they would use to wipe Israel off the face of the planet with. Israel's an ally. We can't, it's a potential tinderbox. It's a potential World War III is what this is. It truly is. I mean, you've got Iran, who's allied with Russia, China. You've got the United States and Israel. You've got the Middle East, which largely hates Israel. This has potential of a major military and a threat of instability for a long time. And so what's the best path here? And I also understand, Netanyahu's position, the Prime Minister of Israel, is that the only way out is for Khamenei to be assassinated, is to be killed. And that's where we kind of left off last segment. I want to pick that up and talk about a few other things here. That's where we are headed this hour. Friends, if you have a business, if you run a sports league, if you run a nonprofit, if you're involved in those things, if you're in HR, if you're in marketing and you're looking for products, if you're looking to get your logo on some item, whether it's an award, whether it's a trade show display or banner, whether it's apparel, embroidered merchandise, screen-printed T-shirts, Red, White, and Brand is here to help you. By the way, that's our company as well. It's actually a division right now of the Todd Huff Show. This is something I did years ago started a similar company like this in 2009. We sold it in 2019. Our non-compete was 6 years, and if you do the math, you'll find that 2025 is the year that we could relaunch. And for the past year, I'd been considering this, and I thought this was a good time to go ahead and do that. And so you go to redwhiteandbrand.com. That's the name of the company, redwhiteandbrand.com. You can shop, see what is available. It's always amazing to me the things that we can get your logo on. Have a huge list of vendors, quality vendors and suppliers who produce a whole myriad of products. And even if we don't, we can typically find it. Your logo on almost anything is what we tell our customers. That's what we can achieve at Red, White, and Brand. If you place your order online and use promo code Todd, you'll get 10% off and free shipping on top of that. redwhiteandbrand.com. Promo code Todd saves you 10% and you'll get free shipping on orders placed online. All right. Let's get back here. I was looking at an article, the New York Post. I'm going to pick up where I left off, but basically the headline is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu won't rule out killing Iran's supreme leader, says that it would end the conflict. So, okay, so I'm just trying to pick up exactly where I left off. So it's been reported that Trump said no to this. We don't want you to kill the supreme leader. We want you to defend yourself. We don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. We think that this regime is absolutely evil, but this regime change and killing the leader, and what does that mean? What happens next? What kind of chaos? What's this government going to be replaced with? You can't just assume that it's going to be better, because it may be worse. This is about as bad as it gets, but it could be the same sort of thing. They could be more radical. They could be more aggressive. They could be more provocative. I mean, in some sense, you might say that's a little bit hard to believe. The chances are that the new regime would be better, especially when you factor in the people are tired of this. The people living under this regime. Occasionally, I'll see some posts from people who live in Iran. Of course, I'm familiar just from having followed this story or situation in Iran for, 20 years or so. But to see the people there desire freedom. The people there, first and foremost, we know that we were created by our Creator to be free. So that's the natural longing. The natural human desire is to be free. They are not free. They are oppressed in a very, very heavy-handed way by this current regime in Iran. And so Netanyahu's position is, look, we're not getting out of this. The quickest way to solve this problem is to take out the leader, and then to whatever happens after that would be an advantage, would be a better situation for Israel, for the stability of that part of the world and so forth. It's not necessarily the only solution, but that seems to be Netanyahu's position. Netanyahu said this: they, referring to Iran, actually had their proxy shoot a drone right into my bedroom window. When proxies, by the way, so Iran has been fighting a proxy war against Israel for some time, primarily through Hezbollah, a terrorist organization. Although Iran's ties to the terrorist organizations in the Middle East are pretty much all over the place. And so instead of having the Iranian military attack Israel, they've been basically hiring contractors, in a sense, to go do the dirty work for them. And Netanyahu says, look, they've tried to take me out personally. They've had their proxy, one of their terrorist organizations, shoot a drone right into my bedroom window. This is not safe. These people can't be trusted. There's no negotiating with this. We've lost any opportunity to do that. They've delayed, they've lied, they've dragged their feet, they've insisted they weren't developing nuclear weapons. They told us that they had weapons, they want to take my country out. And so his position is, look, this is what has to be done. We have to be able to take out Khamenei. Going back to the article here, it says Israel on Friday began massive airstrikes on Iran. We all know this, targeting its nuclear sites as well as top scientists and military officials. The two nations have exchanged daily rocket fire since the initial attack. By the way, Iran's missile fire has been reduced dramatically. Israel has taken some of those out. It's also possible, people have speculated, that Israel may have hacked into their ability to launch some of their missiles. So Israel has air supremacy, and now Iran is not able to fire as many missiles as it once did, even though it had promised yesterday was going to be the biggest missile barrage that the nation of Israel had ever faced. Now, Iran, in one sense, has increased the intensity of the conflict, of the war, by firing more missiles into the area, but then at the same time saying that they wanted to have some sort of talks. Netanyahu's point is, we can't do this. This is not the way that this works. This guy can't be trusted. This regime has to go. Trump asked Netanyahu not to kill Khamenei, who's 86. Axios and Reuters reported Sunday, who has led Iran since its revolutionary leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, there was, and I remember Khomeini back in the 80s. He died in 1989. Ayatollah Khomeini was replaced by Ayatollah Khamenei, if you can even hear me say the difference there. And I don't speak the language, but I mean, they're pronounced very similarly. They're spelled fairly similarly as well. So Khomeini died in 89 after toppling the last Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, a decade earlier. Netanyahu lavished praise on Trump during his ABC interview, while gently disagreeing on the merits of assassinating the Islamic Republic's leader, and also politely downplaying the U.S. president's call for negotiations between both parties. They don't want a seat at the table. They want to blow up the table, Netanyahu says. That's a very good way to summarize that. That cuts through the fluff. That gets right to the point. He's right. That is the case. If Israel's at the table, they want to blow the table up. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead, the Israeli leader said. We're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity. Trump wrote Sunday on Truth Social, Iran and Israel should make a deal, and we'll make a deal. We will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. And so, listen, Trump's a deal maker. War being avoided is the best thing. But if the options are war, the death of the supreme leader, or Iran has a nuclear weapon. Iran having a nuclear weapon is the worst scenario. I mean, obviously, we're not going to have a full-fledged, or I certainly hope not, full-fledged ground war and all that sort of stuff. But taking out the leader of Iran, in my estimation, would be much more advantageous than letting Iran having a nuclear weapon. I don't understand the people. I really don't. Who think that Iran having a nuclear weapon is like France having a nuclear weapon, or the United States having a nuclear weapon. The United States, while people act as though we're the biggest force of evil on the face of the planet, the modern Democrat Party acts like that. They talk like that. They seem to believe that. But the United States exercises incredible restraint. You could say, well, they used nuclear weapons in World War II. I read something about that earlier today. People going after the United States for using nuclear weapons in World War II. But do you know that the Japanese refused to surrender? I've seen people try to mischaracterize what happened. The reason we used nuclear atomic bomb two of them against Japan in World War II. By the way, let's retrace how we got to that point. Japan was, had expanded or tried to expand, to take over the world alongside Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. They both had powers of world supremacy. The Imperial Japanese decided to launch a sneak attack on the military base, the naval base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, early on a Sunday morning when they knew we wouldn't be ready, and they decimated the Pacific Fleet. And then they used that attack to cripple our Navy, and then they went into aggressive expansion mode, attacking other places in the Pacific, taking them over, brutally killing and destroying lots of people, imprisoning people. We got our Navy back up and running. Of course, we were fighting a war on two fronts, the European theater and the Pacific theater. And we basically sent our men to go in island by island that the Japanese had taken over in the South Pacific and pushed them back one at a time. Battle of Midway, the Battle of Iwo Jima. That's where some of these names come from. They're literally island by island. We would go and liberate these islands, take tremendous loss of life, and they started doing calculations. The military did calculations to invade the main islands of Japan. The calculations for the number of killed and wounded was astronomical. And so the president at the time made the decision, the very difficult decision, do I send in, because the Japanese were not going to surrender. They were not going to surrender. They made that clear. And so we had to make a choice. We have to make them surrender. We have to take them, bring them to their knees and destroy their ability to take over and to do something like they have done to get us into this mess. And so, since they wouldn't surrender, he decided Truman decided instead of sending troops in, to drop an atomic bomb. The first was on Hiroshima, the second was on Nagasaki, and it turned out the destruction and devastation, which was horrific, by the way, terrible. That's what brought the Japanese ultimately to the negotiating table to end World War II. That's not what we're looking at when we look at Iran. We wouldn't be looking at nuclear capabilities for the preservation of their country, for the self-defense. They have made it clear that it would be an offensive weapon. It would be a weapon that they would be happy to use against the nation of Israel. Trump goes to Truth Social, makes some posts here. America first, he posted, means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again. He also posts on Truth Social, somebody please explain to, his words, not mine, by the way, Kooky Tucker Carlson, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is what Trump has said. He also posted this on Truth Social. Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame and what a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. That, of course, that was yesterday. So the people have been fleeing Tehran. Israel alerted the people to leave Tehran, Iran, the capital city of Iran. And so people are fleeing. There's been businesses closed. There's been massive traffic jams. People trying to get out of Tehran, Iran, because of what may continue to be coming as we watch this situation between Iran and Israel continue to develop here. Here's the post that was referenced in the article. Iran, that Trump made on Truth Social. Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan, thank you, Obama, for teaching me how to say that, to make. In that case, by using trade with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks with two excellent leaders who were able to quickly make a decision and stop. Also, during my first term, Serbia and Kosovo were going at it hot and heavy, as they have for many decades. And this long-time conflict was ready to break out into war. I stopped it. Biden has hurt the longer-term prospects with some very stupid decisions, but I will fix it again. Another case is Egypt and Ethiopia and their fight over a massive dam that is having an effect on the magnificent Nile River. There is peace, at least for now, because of my intervention, and it will stay that way. Likewise, we will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. I do a lot and never get credit for anything. This is Trump's post, not my words. But that's okay. The people understand. Make the Middle East great again. So Trump's position is that this can be negotiated. Netanyahu's position is, look, these people are madmen. The negotiating table, the only way that they'll come to it is if they can blow it up because we're sitting at it. And so here we are. What's the next best step? Is it to take out the leader of Iran? The one who is responsible for this mess to begin with, the abject evil that's been employed against his own people? This situation, this current fight that we're having in the Middle East with missiles being lobbed and drones and aircraft and everything else. What is the next best step? Do you trust this nation? Again, I'm inclined to say no. As I'm talking this out, I just find myself thinking I don't see any way out of this with this guy being in office in control of the country, the supreme leader. At the same time, I know that regime change is not a guaranteed thing, and is that really what we want to be engaged in, even though I can clearly see the benefits of having leadership that doesn't lead us to this particular point. So I'm going to pause there as I wrap up the first segment of hour 2 of today's program. But friends, before I do that, before I take that break, you know that I'm about supporting companies that share our values. That's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why I love MyPillow. They're not just making great products, which they are. They're standing up for American jobs, American values, and let's be honest, my friends, American comfort. From their patented pillows to their plush towels and ridiculously comfortable slippers, MyPillow has something for everyone. Friends, these are investments in your well-being, to sleep better, to be more comfortable, to wake up refreshed, to feel great all day long. Go to MyPillow.com, use promo code Todd for some amazing discounts. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Todd. Don't just buy a product, my friends. Support a cause. Support companies who are pushing in the same direction you are. Sleep better, live better, and stand for what matters, all with MyPillow. MyPillow.com, promo code Todd. Quick timeout, my friends. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So, as all of this stuff is going on, Trump was at the G7 summit in Canada, which, by the way, I saw the Canadian Prime Minister and Trump basically make an announcement that a trade deal is going to be reached here between Canada and the U.S. in the next 30 days. That's what I saw, and we'll see how that plays out. But Trump leaves the G7, leaves early with everything going on. There's an announcement made that he's going back to the White House, and they're going to be meeting in the Situation Room upon his return. This was early this morning, I guess. Is that right? That he tweeted this, and they were going to meet. This is Tuesday. Tuesday morning, they were going to meet in the Situation Room upon his return. And in the process of all this happening, apparently President Emmanuel Macron of France said that Trump was leaving because he had negotiated or was going to announce a negotiated ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Trump didn't like this. Trump gets this to his Truth Social page. I believe this happened when he was en route back home, I believe is what I saw. But anyway, he posts this. Publicity-seeking President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go back to D.C. to work on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong, with an exclamation point. He has no idea why I am on my way back to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with the ceasefire. Much bigger than that, Trump says. Which, what does that mean? Much bigger than that. Whether purposefully or not, Emmanuel gets it wrong. Stay tuned. So that's where that stands. So it's being reported that that's why Trump is heading back. Trump says no, it's bigger than that. Which, in some sense, you think, what's bigger? What's bigger than the potential negotiated end to what could easily, I don't want to say easily, but what could certainly spread and become World War III? That seems to be like a pretty big deal to me. So, when he gets on the aircraft, Air Force One, early this morning at 1:30 in the morning, and they're airborne, they're flying back to the U.S., back to Washington, D.C. Caitlin Collins of CNN is there in the press. She's traveling with the president as a member of the media, and she asks him about this. And I want you to hear this exchange.
You just posted right before we took off that you're not leaving because of a ceasefire. Why are you? Can you elaborate?
We're looking at better than a ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say I was looking for a ceasefire. That was Emmanuel, nice guy, but he doesn't get it right too often. But we're not looking. We're looking for better than a ceasefire.
A little hard to understand there. He says, we're not looking for a ceasefire. I didn't say we were looking for a ceasefire. Emmanuel Macron said we were looking for a ceasefire. We're looking for something better than a ceasefire is what Trump said. I'm going to try this again. He continues here, but it's really hard to hear. He's not close to the mic. It's you can hear the well, I don't want to say the roar, but the hum of the engines on Air Force One. He continues.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for?
What's better than a ceasefire is the question.
An end.
An end.
A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that would be permanent.
Yeah. Or giving up entirely. That's okay too.
Are you close there? Is that possible in the next 24 hours?
Certainly possible. A complete give up. That's possible, yeah.
So he said, what's better than a ceasefire is, well, he says completely give up. And I'm interpreting from that, he means Iran's pursuit of nuclear weapons. That would be better than a ceasefire. He was asked, is that possible? He says anything's possible. That would be better than a simple ceasefire. The absolute abandonment, that's what I interpret him to say anyway, the abandonment of the nuclear weapon by the Iranian regime. That's what Trump says. So, look, so they've gotten back. I don't know when they've met, what time they met in the Situation Room, but these are serious times. Whatever is going on, there's lots of things out there. Not just, of course, Israel and Iran is a big deal because that could erupt into a massive problem really quickly. But we've got other things as well. We've got again this shooter in Minnesota, which the left wants everyone to believe that this is a typical Trump supporter, that they want you to believe this is a conservative. I shared yesterday, there's just this focus on, which side of the aisle this guy cast his vote on. And as I shared yesterday, which is, by the way, the right way of looking at this, if a particular side of the aisle, or theoretically both sides of the aisle, are encouraging and inciting people to acts of violence, that's absolutely wicked. That's absolutely evil. And then you could blame, if that's the case, you could blame the party, you could blame people on that side of the aisle for that. And I referenced yesterday that there were roughly half of people left-leaning said that it was at least somewhat justifiable to assassinate Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Half of people on the left side of the spectrum. And yet here they are coming after the rest of, MAGA, Trump supporters, Republicans, and saying that even if this guy turns, listen, you know what, there are so many things today, some people are saying that this guy is clearly MAGA. You got others who say this guy is clearly a leftist. He's targeting people who, voted to stop giving benefits to illegal aliens and so forth. He has a list. He had a list. We were given a typed version of a list. We don't know. We haven't seen the handwritten list. Headline here, redstate.com, Minnesota shooter's hit list revealed and leads to more questions than answer, written by Susie Moore. Everything about the shooting of 2 Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses early morning is odd. It's additionally horrific and tragic, but it's odd. While the nation was focusing on Flag Day, planned parade in D.C., and planned No Kings protest across the country, Saturday morning brought news of a horrifying development in Minnesota, with State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband having been killed, and State Senator John Hoffman and his wife shot and fighting for their lives. Authorities quickly identified 57-year-old Vance Belter as the suspect, and a manhunt was underway after Belter reportedly exchanged gunfire with police outside Hortman's home and then fled on foot, abandoning an SUV that appeared to be a police or security vehicle. According to authorities, Belter left behind No Kings flyers, weapons, a manifesto of some sort, and a list of multiple Minnesota lawmakers and other officials, indicating he may have had a, quote, hit list. Belter was apprehended late Sunday night. Subsequently, the purported hit list was released, or at least a typewritten version of it was. Inside the vehicle, police recovered a disturbing cache of weapons, including at least 3 AK-47 assault rifles and a 9mm handgun, along with a manifesto that listed the names and addresses of other public officials. About 70 names were found in the manifesto, according to 2 law enforcement officials who spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity. Officials said the list also included the names of abortion rights advocates and information about healthcare facilities. Former Congressman Dean Phillips claimed in a post on X that his name was on the list found in Belter's car. As someone whose name was on his list, I extend heartfelt gratitude to Minnesota's law enforcement professionals, Phillips wrote. Now we must take steps to prevent political violence before it's too late. There's a lot of weird things with this story, and we'll get to some of those as I read through the rest of this, or at least a part of this. Got to take a time out, though, here in just a moment. My friends, do you know where your money goes after you spend it? That answer makes you cringe, or if you haven't stopped to think, and I'm sure that the vast majority of you have, but to really stop and think, I work for this money, I fight for these causes, I then give my money to somebody who takes the profits from that and basically does the opposite with what I would do with my money. They start fighting for leftist candidates and leftist causes and things that are not putting America first. They're out there, heck, probably in some cases, promoting the No Kings rallies and all this stuff. They're promoting things that I'm diametrically opposed to. Friends, it's time to check out Freedom Marketplace if that describes you. We have built this platform to connect conservatives like you with businesses that share your values, businesses that refuse to support leftist causes. It's free to use. There's no login required. It's all about keeping your dollars aligned with your principles. Visit freedommarketplace.net today. Liberty, my friends, and business for all. Quick time out. You're listening to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So, referencing an article here, redstate.com, where, a lot of this information about this shooter, the hit list, a lot of questions that come up here. written by Susie Moore. So the list of Vance Belter's, well, his hit list, have been provided. This was posted, a tweet posted by Alpha News. More than 60 Democrat leaders appear to be on it, along with abortion clinics. So there's a typed version. Some of the names, or some of it's redacted, but it's a typed version. It's not the original copy. So whatever you make of that, as the list came to light, Red State writes here, it seemed to raise more questions than it provided answers. Who typed the list? Why wasn't the original copy released? Is this list the entirety of the manifesto, or is there more to it that might shed some light on the motive? As town hall columnist Dustin Grage, who was well acquainted with Minnesota politics, notes, the list includes a state senator who passed away in December. How long has this list been in existence, and how long was it being compiled? Why isn't Senator John Hoffman the initial target on the list? Why is the former Hennepin County attorney listed but not the current one? There was a guy listed, former state senator. I don't know how to, incorrect. There was a female senator. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Carrie Dzidik. She was on the list, but she tragically passed away from cancer in December. Author continues here. There's very little about this case that makes much of any sense at all at the moment. Belter's odd employment history, the multiple residences, the roommates, when he's married with 5 children, the wife's apprehension with money, passports, and weapons. It's understandable that people want it to make sense. There's a knee-jerk instinct to try to fit a situation like this into a familiar framework. Oh, this was political/ideological. And maybe it was, she writes. Or maybe it doesn't make sense because we're not dealing with someone who was thinking or acting in a rational fashion. Or maybe there's just a lot more to this and we're only seeing glimmers of that. Honestly, in the coming hours and days, we will have more answers and fewer questions. For now, there's a lot that remains murky. So, lots of questions. And look, this is where people begin to develop what others would call conspiracy theories. Although there's certainly examples of things that that warrant some skepticism, that warrant additional explanation. There's a lot here, right? There's a lot here that doesn't make a lot of sense. We do know that it's evil. We do know that it's easy to condemn someone trying to kill or killing a politician, or candidly anyone for that matter. That's not hard to do. It's hard for some people to do. And it's so interesting. I see people at these No Kings protests. They hold up a sign that says 8647. And, if you did that in Minnesota today, I mean, that people would assume that was connected, that you're calling for the ending of politicians, which is reprehensible. It makes no difference to me. I made this clear yesterday. I've made this clear in the past. If you listen to this program for any length of time, it doesn't matter to me it does in a sense that it has to be stopped. If there's a cause of it that's ideological, that needs to be addressed, that needs to be called out, and that needs to be stopped. I have to tell you, though, listen, I know people who are Democrats, peaceful Democrats. They just see the world differently. I don't understand how they can support today's Democrat Party, but listen, I understand. I love and get along with these people. They're not radical leftists. They're just people that can't vote Republican. They're honestly conservative in most every way, or many ways. They're reasonable at least, but they don't vote Republican. And okay, again, I don't understand it, but they're not the ones who have embraced this abject evil. And I look at my conservative allies and friends. There's nothing in conservatism that's promoting or calling for the targeting of political enemies. If it happens on the fringe, and if it happens, I condemn it. But the left wants to say that this guy truly turns out to be a Republican or a Trump supporter, that this is who the Trump supporter is. And my friends, that's just simply not true. That's simply not true. If anybody's out there condoning violence, I mean, look at what happened in the wake of Trump's attempted assassination. In fact, I saw man-on-the-street interviews at one of these stupid No Kings rallies or whatever, protests. And at the rally, someone was holding up an 8647 sign and said that they just want Trump, that stands for to throw out the garbage or some such thing. They want Trump thrown out, I guess, of office is what we're supposed to make of this. And then the question was posed, do you feel like that's an appropriate sign to have up, given that the president had an attempt on his life? He was the victim of an attempted assassination, to which this person said he was not the victim of an attempted assassination, which is, of course, crazy talk, but nonetheless, that's what these folks, not all of them, but there's a category, a group of folks who refuse to accept the violence when they actually see it. And I've got to go. SDG, my friends.